After breaking off our engagement, Pei Yanqing was reborn. On the day he was betrothed to the Xie family, he waited for me all night in the rain. Ayu. Let's start over. Xie Chengjing died 3 years later from an incurable illness. Are you truly willing to be his widow for the rest of your life? Later, the sickly weakling Pei Yanqing spoke of not only survived but proved remarkably capable. Noticing my confusion, he embraced me and chuckled softly. My wife is a star of fortune. From the day I met you, the Lord of Death spared me. He won't live past 3 years. Pei Yanqing's face was deathly pale, and the hand gripping my wrist carried a bone-chilling cold. Ayu. I'm not lying to you. That sickly Xie Chengjing won't live past 3 years. How will you, a widow with an orphan, protect yourselves in the Xie household then? After breaking off the engagement with Pei Yanqing, the Xie family sent matchmakers to propose marriage. They chose me because my horoscope was auspicious. They hoped to use my fortune to ward off misfortune. If all else failed, I'd been trained in martial arts since childhood and was fertile. The Xie family hoped I could bear an heir for Xie Chengjing. My reason for choosing Xie Chengjing was far simpler. Back then, Pei Yanqing broke off our engagement for a courtesan, causing a citywide scandal. The world is harsh on women. No one blamed Pei Yanqing for his fickleness, his shifting allegiances. They mocked me instead, losing my husband's heart before I even entered his home. Rumors kill without spilling blood. My uncle's reputation and my cousin's marriage prospects were both tarnished. Xie Chengjing was simply my best option. The spring chill was biting, and last night brought another spring rain. I couldn't fathom why Pei Yanqing was causing such a scene today. Just as I couldn't understand why he'd insisted on breaking off our engagement back then. I wrenched myself free from his grasp, refusing to spare him a single glance. Pei Yanqing hurried after me. Ayu. Even after breaking off the engagement with the Xie family, Before he could finish, my cousin burst through the door and knocked him flat with a punch. Pei. Do you think Sister Ayu is some cabbage on the street? Up for grabs? The incident of my cousin and Pei Yanqing brawling at our doorstep inevitably became the talk of the town. The storytellers in the capital's entertainment districts were always quick with their tongues. They said the Crown Prince Pei had reformed his ways. A treasure beyond price. It seemed that if only I would forgive him, we could still be the envy of the capital. After overturning the storyteller's stall, my cousin raised an eyebrow at me. She tossed a coin purse at him, then bent down, smiling sweetly. One more word of this nonsense, and I'll cut out your gossiping tongue. Once the storyteller fled in panic, my cousin tapped my forehead in exasperation. Xinjiu, you're as pliable as dough. Could it be true, as that storyteller claimed, that you still harbor feelings for that dog, Pei Yanqing? Did you deliberately marry that sickly Xie family heir just to torment him? I couldn't help but chuckle. How could that be? When I was 10, my mother passed away. My father couldn't wait to bring his mistress, whom he'd kept in a separate courtyard, into the main household. Parents who love their children plan for their future with foresight. Before her death, Mother exhausted herself devising a path for my survival. My aunt in the distant capital sent for me, sparing me from my stepmother's torment. My aunt treated me well. She taught us girls not merely the traditional arts of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. When my cousin and I showed interest in martial arts, she used her connections to send us both to Qinglu Mountain to train. Qinglu Mountain boasted breathtaking scenery, attracting many noblemen from the city to worship the Buddha there. Lord Pei held a high and influential position, upright and incorruptible. In the imperial court, he inevitably offended petty officials. When I encountered Pei Yanqing, he was being hunted down. All the guards protecting him had perished, and many of his pursuers were also wounded or killed. I fought desperately to save him, then carried the unconscious Pei Yanqing back to Qinglu Temple. The Marquis of Pei, grateful for my rescue, insisted on betrothing me to Pei Yanqing. In the years that followed, Pei Yanqing would visit Qinglu Mountain every summer to see me. He brought me the latest pastries from the capital and beautiful dresses. While I practiced martial arts, he would sit nearby, smiling warmly as he watched me. He always said, "Ayu, you're truly remarkable." Time stretches long in the mountains. Amid 10 years of monotonous, daily training, Pei Yanqing's visits were the only source of change. Each summer, I eagerly awaited his arrival to hear tales of the capital's fascinating people and events. When did things change? I suppose it was when he began mentioning that famed courtesan of the capital more and more often in my presence. On the day Xie Chengjing, the courtesan of Spring Breeze Pavilion, first took the stage, her green sash dance drew crowds so large the streets emptied. Young nobles vied to shower her with gifts, yet counted not the songs sung to the crimson tips. Ayu, I've never seen a woman so talented. Even Pei Yanqing himself didn't notice how his eyes softened unconsciously whenever he spoke of Xie Chengjing. He said she excelled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, her slender fingers as delicate as spring onions. I tucked my hands, calloused from years of sword gripping, behind my back. My rough calluses would snag those exquisite, ornate robes. Those intricate robes would also hinder my swordplay. Pei Yanqing's annulment seemed inevitable, but he shouldn't have trampled my feelings and dignity just to win a smile from that beauty. He certainly shouldn't have feigned remorse after breaking my heart so completely. My thoughts snapped back as I met my cousin's smile. My mother taught me long ago, one must never fall into the same pit twice. Street tales about Pei Yanqing and me proliferated endlessly. Some even claimed Xie Chengjing had stolen my love. They said my aunt and uncle, greedy for power, had sold me to that dying invalid in the Xie household. My cousin nearly bit tooth marks into my uncle's pearwood chair in fury. Pei Yanqing still acts without regard for consequences. He only sought momentary gratification, never considering the torrent of slander I'd be swept into. Rumors are hard to quell. Even when I confronted them, they stubbornly defended themselves. Miss Shin, you can't bully and humiliate us commoners just because you're a noble's daughter. Not a single word in those gossip pamphlets mentioned Miss Shin by name. I'd already resigned myself to the mindset of let them talk, their mouths are their own. But overnight, every pamphlet about me and Pei Yanqing vanished. The most brazen bookshops even shut down for good. My cousin stared blankly for several seconds at the for-lease notice fluttering in the wind. She turned to me. Did that bastard Pei Yanqing finally get a conscience? Me, you might as well believe your sincerity moved the gods. A soft chuckle came from behind us. The girl should just consider it divine intervention. I turned to look in the direction of the voice. A pale, slender hand lifted the carriage curtain, revealing a face as white and gaunt as the snow. Though the weather was warming, he remained wrapped in a thick cloak, its snow-white fur collar making his face appear almost translucent. He lifted his eyelids slightly, his gaze meeting mine with a flicker of amusement. Miss Shin, it's a pleasure to meet you. Xie Chengjing, third young master of the Duke's household. Rumor had it the third young master was perpetually medicated, too frail even to rise from bed. Yet seeing Xie Chengjing in person, like an immortal stepping from an ancient painting, one could only say rumors mislead. Today's affair was likely his doing as well. The commotion over my relationship with Pei Yanqing must have troubled the Xie family. As if reading my thoughts, Xie Chengjing curved his lips. Miss Shin, do you find me different from the rumors? I chose my words carefully. The third young master Xie is as radiant as the moon after a storm. Peerlessly handsome. Naturally, he is 1,000, 10,000 times better than the rumors suggest. Sunlight filtered through the cracks, casting dappled patterns across Xie Chengjing's form, lending his already pallid skin an ethereal translucency. Likewise. He paused, his voice calm yet imbued with a reassuring strength. I need not learn what kind of person Miss Shin is from others. My heart skipped a beat without warning. Miss Shin is wonderful. Xie Chengjing's gaze was open and honest. Far better than the rumors suggested. Am I wonderful? When Pei Yanqing made a grand show of coming to call off the engagement, his words were cloaked in noble rhetoric. Yet between the lines, he shifted the blame entirely onto me. He was born into nobility. My uncle, however, was merely a sixth-rank commander of the five-city military command. Others claimed my lowly birth must have made me rude and ill-mannered, thus earning the prince's disdain. It seemed all the blame stemmed from my inadequacy. All my confidence crumbled at that single phrase, not good enough. I asked my aunt, was it truly because I wasn't good enough that Pei Yanqing disliked me? My aunt said no. Women in this world are all different. Some favor the delicate, pampered peony, while others love the daisy that endures wind and snow in the mountains. My aunt's words and Xie Chengjing's mission is wonderful were like two warm rays of light, dispelling the lingering gloom in my heart. It turned out that someone could see the real me beneath all the rumors. My wedding date with Xie Chengjing was set. Upon returning to the capital for his official duties, Marquis Pei learned of Pei Yanqing's outrageous actions and beat him so severely he was bedridden for 3 months. I enjoyed 3 rare months of leisure. Throughout those 3 months, the entire household bustled with preparations for my marriage to Xie Chengjing. Upon learning Xie Chengjing wasn't the frail figure of legend, my cousin burst into my room, clutching me as she wept with tear-filled eyes. Sister Au, I'll finally stop dreaming about you marrying a rooster. My aunt, who was helping prepare my dowry, heard this and kicked my cousin in exasperation, both amused and annoyed. How can you still be so tactless at your age? She scolded. My cousin hid behind me, sticking out her tongue at my aunt. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the window lattice, falling upon the melons and fruits Xie Chengjing had just sent. Xie Chengjing had given me many gifts. Whenever Tianxiong Pavilion introduced new pastries, the shop assistant would always deliver a portion to our residents with a beaming smile. Knowing I'd trained in martial arts for years, he'd given me an exquisite bone whip, a compact soft sword for easy carrying. Today's melons and fruits were a first. Suddenly, I recalled a poem I'd learned in my youth. You give me a wood apple, I repay you with a jade ornament. I thought I should also send something to Xie Chengjing. With some time remaining before the wedding, I planned to return to Qinglu Mountain first. First, to deliver the invitation to my master, who lives in seclusion on the mountain. Second, Qinglu Temple is renowned for its divine blessings. I wanted to obtain a talisman of peace for Xie Chengjing. The talismans of peace from Qinglu Temple are extremely difficult to obtain. One must follow the high monks through intricate rituals, chanting sutras, reciting mantras, and performing visualization practices. On the final day of visualization, I carried my copied sutras to seek out Master Shikong. I wished for him to inscribe a 6-hour auspiciousness charm for Xie Chengjing. Upon learning my purpose, Master Shikong set down his prayer beads and smiled lightly. This monk inscribed characters for you many years ago. How serendipitous we meet again. My master never believed in Buddhism, so it couldn't have been him who sought it for me. Pei Yanqing did mention on a whim that he'd help me obtain a talisman, but upon learning that just the sutra recitation alone required 49 days, he lost interest, let alone specifically seeking out Master Shikong to inscribe it for me. I couldn't think of anyone else off the top of my head. The master didn't keep me in suspense. It was Xie Chengjing, the third son of the Xie family. After speaking, the master pulled a somewhat weathered amulet from a nearby drawer and handed it to me. The ink on the paper had long since dried. The master continued, the inscription on this amulet was commissioned by the young master of the Xie family 10 years ago. For reasons unknown, he entrusted it to this old monk, saying he would return for it someday. I stared at the words increase both fortune and wisdom on the paper, lost in thought. 10 years ago, I was 7, still in Qingzhou. I wasn't acquainted with Xie Chengjing. Why would Xie Chengjing, far away in the capital, go to the trouble of obtaining a fortune and wisdom amulet for me? I recall Pei Yanqing once mentioning that Xie Chengjing would die of an incurable illness 3 years later. A wild thought suddenly took root in my mind. When Pei Yanqing invited me again, I went, my mind brimming with questions. Pei Yanqing seemed taken aback that I actually came. Staring blankly for a few seconds, I declined the tea he offered and cut straight to the point. Pei Yanqing, why did you say Xie Chengjing wouldn't live past 3 years? A hint of bitterness flashed in Pei Yanqing's eyes. Ew. If I told you I was reborn, would you believe me? In my past life, after breaking off the engagement, Pei Yanqing spent a fortune to buy Lu Qingqing's freedom. As a century-old aristocratic family, the Peis naturally wouldn't allow a courtesan like Lu Qingqing to become their matriarch. No matter how much Pei Yanqing pleaded, his mother would only agree to make Lu Qingqing a concubine. Later, Pei Yanqing blindly got involved in the prince's factional struggles, plunging the Pei family into danger and landing himself behind bars. At this point, Pei Yanqing paused, his gaze toward me glistening with unshed tears. Lu Qingqing only knew how to weep and pray to gods and Buddhas when trouble struck. Ew. After I was imprisoned, it was you who arranged everything. Running around tirelessly. His voice faltered several times. Ew. I was the fool who mistook a fish's eye for a pearl. Hearing this, I couldn't help but sneer coldly. Pei Yanqing adored the vibrant, dazzling beauty of a delicate flower, yet despised it for being unable to withstand the cold winds. I was truly pathetic in my past life. I rushed headlong to save him. My fingers traced the amulet at my waist, and the pale, refined face of Xie Chengjing flashed through my mind, stirring an inexplicable pang of sorrow. What about Xie Chengjing? Pei Yanqing fell silent for a moment before saying, Ew. Xie Chengjing is deeply calculating. You do well to keep your distance. In my past life, even after Xie Chengjing died of illness, his father remained alive and well. Pei Yanqing watched my pupils suddenly contract and whispered, Guess why he'll die suddenly this time? Xie Chengjing, his father died young. His mother devoted to Buddhist rituals, detached from worldly affairs. I grabbed the short sword resting nearby, ready to leave. Pei Yanqing urgently seized my arm. Don't you trust me? I nodded. I do. Then why marry that sickly Xie Chengjing? Wouldn't marrying me be better? I couldn't be bothered with pretense. Then consider it my scheme, a comfortable life with a wealthy husband who dies young, leaving me with wealth and children. I didn't know which of my words had given Pei Yanqing the wrong idea. He stopped my carriage in the street, his tone fervent and hopeful. Ew. After Xie Chengjing dies, I will still marry you. The person beside me shot me a half-smile, half-sneer and murmured to Pei Yanqing outside the carriage, Prince Pei. I haven't even married yet. And you're already hoping for my death? That's not quite right. Is it? Her voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for those outside to hear. The carriage curtain was violently pulled aside. Pei Yanqing's expression darkened visibly upon seeing Xie Chengjing seated beside me, book in hand. Xinjiu, you shameless woman. How dare you ride in the same carriage with a man in public? A barely perceptible sneer touched Xie Chengjing's lips. Prince Pei's words are quite amusing. Au is my betrothed. What is improper about sharing a carriage? But you, Prince Pei, publicly intercept my carriage and hurl insults at my fiancé. Xie Chengjing's gaze grew steadily colder. Perhaps I should submit a memorial to His Majesty regarding Lord Pei's failure to discipline his son. Pei Yanqing's eyes glowed like a snake bearing its fangs. Au and I grew up together, betrothed since childhood. You, Xie Chengjing, destroyed our union, may you meet a wretched end. Xie Chengjing's smile remained undimmed. Prince Pei. That's quite amusing. A daughter sought by many, I only proposed after you broke off the engagement. How is that destroying a union? In fact, I should thank Prince Pei for facilitating this union. Xie Chengjing's words instantly darkened Prince Pei Yanqing's expression. Had you not interfered, given another chance, I could have. Prince Pei. Xie Chengjing cut him off coldly. His Majesty dislikes tales of spirits and ghosts. Prince Pei. Choose your words carefully. The tassels on the curtain were crumpled in Prince Pei Yanqing's tight grip. He pressed his lips together. His gaze toward me tinged with pleading. Ayu. Is it truly impossible between us? Cold wind poured in from beyond the curtain, making Xie Chengjing cough incessantly. After pressing the hand warmer into Xie Chengjing's hands, I snatched the curtain from Pei Yanqing and lowered it. The scent of cedar incense gradually filled the carriage. My voice carried clearly through the carriage, reaching Pei Yanqing's ears without a single word lost. I said, Pei Yanqing, I actually went to your birthday banquet that day. I made a special trip to celebrate Pei Yanqing's birthday. Madame Pei always looked down on my birth. Out of deference to Marquis Pei, she could only offer lukewarm, stinging remarks. Today, however, she was unusually warm, sending a maidservant to lead me to Pei Yanqing. I followed the maidservant through exquisitely crafted pavilions and towers. Finally, at the pavilion in the lake's center, I saw Lu Qingqing, beaming, throw herself into Pei Yanqing's arms. In her hand was the birthday gift I had painstakingly prepared for Pei Yanqing. The jade pendant swayed in Lu Qingqing's grasp. She pouted coquettishly. Your Highness, aren't you afraid of hurting your fiancé's heart by doing this? Pei Yanqing lowered his gaze and smiled softly. My union with Xinxiu is merely an arrangement of our parents. Qingqing, you are the love of my life. Lu Qingqing deliberately tossed the jade pendant into the water. Pei Yanqing showed no annoyance, instead taking her hand and leading her to the storeroom to find her a new one. The old nurse remained standing respectfully beside me, yet her eyes held a clear, mocking glint. I left the Pei residence in a daze, turning to gaze at the gilded and jade-adorned mansion. I suddenly understood Lady Pei's true intentions. She looked down on Lu Qingqing, but she likely didn't hold me in high regard either. Truthfully, Pei Yanqing and I were never meant to be. Later, I heard that after returning home, Pei Yanqing caused quite a scene and ordered the lake drained. Who knows what he was searching for? Upon hearing this, my cousin sighed. It wasn't surprising that someone who didn't even know to run home when it rained could do such a thing. I didn't care what new madness Pei Yanqing had indulged in. Rebirth doesn't grant wisdom. Others might become desperate and lash out. Pei Yanqing? He'd just be wall-hugging for a while. Last time I'd arranged to meet Xie Chengjing, I'd intended to ask him about the amulet. But after Pei Yanqing disrupted us, Xie Chengjing fell ill as soon as he returned home. I felt awkward inviting him out again, so I decided to investigate on my own. My cousin told me Golden Jade Pavilion was the city's largest intelligence agency. With enough money, they could uncover any information. She patted my shoulder, her pocket stuffed with her secret stash. Leave it to me. 3 days later, clutching the token my cousin gave me, I ascended to the 3rd floor of Golden Jade Tower and pushed open the door. The room was exquisitely and elegantly furnished. My gaze fell upon Xie Chengjing, sitting at a low table, idly playing with chess pieces. Hearing the movement, Xie Chengjing lifted his head to look at me. His peach blossom eyes, brimming with spring water, held a teasing smile. "Ah, you. Since you're so curious, why didn't you come ask me yourself?" Ask what? Ask if he's reincarnated like Pei Yanqing? Or ask? I pulled out the amulet the abbot had given me and handed it to Xie Chengjing. May I ask, third young master? I stared at him, enunciating each word deliberately. Why did you seek this amulet for me 10 years ago? Xie Chengjing set down the jade chess piece, tilting his head slightly toward the window. I don't know when it started, but I've been having the same dream. He spoke slowly. In the dream, a girl was forced to marry me for a lucky marriage ritual to save her family. After I died of illness, she lived her entire life bearing the stigma of being a husband killer. Xie Chengjing turned to look at me, his gaze unflinching. That dream was too bitter. So bitter I couldn't distinguish reality from the dream. While convalescing at Qinglu Temple, I often recalled the emaciated form of that young girl from the dream. So I casually requested a safety charm for her. My throat tightened, a mix of laughter and tears welling up. So, third young master, both the amulet and the marriage proposal stemmed from that dream? His fingers traced the worn surface of the talisman. Yes and no. I thought it was but a fleeting dream, until I saw the girl from my vision appear before me. Radiant as the morning sun, innocent and bright, a stark contrast to the withered spirit I'd seen in my dreams. Xie Chengjing rose and walked toward me. My proposal to marry you has nothing to do with atoning for any past regrets. His voice was steady, yet carried an unwavering certainty that brooked no refusal. You and I must both live in the present. Xie Chengjing bent slightly, reattaching the amulet, still fragrant with medicinal herbs, to my waist. You are wonderful, wise, resilient, kind. Marrying you is where my heart lies, where my affection rests. After returning from the Golden Jade Pavilion, my cousin pestered me for days, demanding to know if I'd gotten the answer I wanted. I suppose I did. Really? My cousin pressed on, so can Xie Chengjing actually have children? My cousin frowned in confusion. You couldn't eat or sleep for days. Investigating Xie Chengjing everywhere, wasn't it because you were curious if he could have children? Earlier, she'd asked why I was investigating Xie Chengjing. Rebirth sounded like pure fantasy, so I made up some excuse to brush her off. No wonder Xie Chengjing said if you want to know something, you should ask him directly. I closed my eyes in despair. Cousin, you really are a clean freak. You're dragging your sister's reputation through the mud. The day Master arrived coincided with the Xie family's betrothal gift ceremony. Box after box of silk and jewels dazzled the eyes. Master rubbed his eyes, then casually grabbed my cousin, who was playing with a goose. He asked, "Has your father given up being an official to become a highway robber?" My cousin shot him a withering glance. Master, what nonsense are you spouting? These are Sister Ayu's betrothal gifts. The Xie family increased the original betrothal gifts by 30%. Xie Chengjing smiled as he tapped my nose. Even without your husband dying young, you'll still live a comfortable life with wealth and children. He knew everything. After all, my father intended to bring my stepmother to the wedding banquet. But before they could depart, he was injured and abandoned the plan, sending gifts instead. Considering Xie Chengjing's frail health, the wedding proceedings were kept simple, with no traditional wedding night pranks. Xie Chengjing raised his hand, gently lifting the veil with the bridal veil. Bright red candles cast a warm, flickering glow throughout the room. It illuminated Xie Chengjing, dressed in a deep red wedding robe, his features as exquisite as a painting. He curved his lips, softly calling my name. Ayu. The guests discreetly withdrew. After sharing the ceremonial wine, he carefully removed the jeweled ornaments adorning my hair. The master enters, personally untying the bride's hair. Let us emulate the phoenix in flight. His voice was low and husky as he spoke, fingering the amulet at my waist. Ayu. Do you know the next line? Even if you haven't eaten pork, you've seen pigs run. Not to mention, the night before the wedding, my aunt had specifically given me a little booklet. Avoiding my cousin, the two figures inside made one's face flush and heart race. He suddenly leaned in, his warm breath brushing my earlobe. Beneath the warm red candle canopy, I buried my face in the brocade quilt embroidered with auspicious phoenix and dragon patterns. too shy to look at him. Xie Chengjing, however, had no intention of letting me off. In an instant, Xie Chengjing and I switched positions. Trapped beneath me, he chuckled softly. Your husband is frail. I'm afraid you'll have to work a bit harder. My dear. 2 amulets dangled from the bed frame, swaying restlessly, like the phoenix in flight, sleeping with necks entwined. Xie Chengjing's father had passed away early, and his mother devoted herself to Buddhist practices. Detached from worldly affairs, the Xie family had produced generations of ministers and officials, their lineage steeped in nobility. Xie Chengjing's 2 elder cousins were both married and held important positions in the court. I had no in-laws to serve above me, nor mundane affairs to trouble me below. My days in the Xie household were indeed quite leisurely. I saw Pei Yanqing again at a polo match. He wore sleek black attire, his posture erect, his gaze upon me carrying an inexplicable shadow. I only glanced briefly before averting my eyes. The host had set a prize, an exquisite green jade bone fan, perfectly suited to Xie Chengjing. Do you like it? My eyes were entirely drawn to the green jade bone fan on the high platform, and I responded to his question. It's beautiful. Xie Chengjing. Only after speaking did I realize Xie Chengjing might not have been referring to the fan. He still gazed at me with a smile, yet his words carried an undeniable edge of bitterness. I'd heard Prince Pei's polo skills were unmatched in the capital, no wonder Au watched with such rapt attention. Just then, a maid brought in a bowl of medicine. Xie Chengjing pushed it away listlessly. I won't drink it. It'd be a waste. Nothing like others galloping with whip in hand, full of vigor, frustrated yet amused. I took the bowl from the maid to feed him. Xie Chengjing lowered his lashes, his expression tinged with pitiable vulnerability. Au, you needn't trouble yourself. My body is too weak to accompany you to the court anyway. It's better to let you watch others enjoy themselves. It took me a long while to soothe Xie Chengjing's sulking. Pei Yanqing had approached unnoticed, his voice husky. Au, if you fancy that fan, I can win it for you. Very well. I rose calmly to meet Pei Yanqing's gaze. My husband dislikes the heat, this fan would suit him perfectly. My thanks to Prince Pei in advance. In the end, I took to the court myself and, amid cheers, claimed the jade fan. Sweaty and exhausted, I returned to the stands and handed the bone fan to Xie Chengjing, who lay lazily sprawled on the soft couch. The fan fluttered open, casting a shadow over half of Xie Chengjing's face, revealing only his smiling almond-shaped eyes. Thank you, my lady. He rose, took out a handkerchief, and gently yet meticulously wiped the sweat from my face. Around us, the ladies murmured with kind laughter and whispered comments. We'd only heard that the 3rd young master of the Xie family was frail. But today, seeing him firsthand, we realized he was also a remarkably thoughtful and considerate gentleman. The smile never left Xie Chengjing's face. Au is a lucky charm. Ever since she married me, the king of hell has spared me. Naturally, I must treat her well. After that day, Pei Yanqing would always appear near Xie Chengjing and me. Whenever Pei Yanqing tried to approach me, Xie Chengjing would cover his mouth with a handkerchief and cough lightly. He would rest his head on my shoulder and flash Pei Yanqing an utterly innocent smile. Please forgive me, Your Highness. My wife must tend to this invalid of mine and may not have time to attend to you. I had heard a few things about Prince Pei's recent situation. It wasn't that I deliberately sought it out. It was just that whenever something unfortunate happened to Pei Yanqing, my cousin couldn't wait to beat the gong and set off a string of firecrackers. For reasons unknown, Pei Yanqing had a falling out with his elders. In a fit of pique, he moved into a brothel, only to be dragged back in public by the enraged Marquis Pei. A letter sent by Pei Yanqing lay on the desk. It was remarkable that Xie Chengjing had been so magnanimous as to deliver it intact to me. The events of my past life seemed like a fairy tale to me. I hadn't experienced what Xinjiu had endured in her previous existence. So naturally, I couldn't forgive Pei Yanqing on her behalf. In this life, the Marquis of Pei disciplined Pei Yanqing strictly. Pei Yanqing's grand public annulment of the betrothal was nothing more than a challenge to the Marquis's authority. Truthfully, Pei Yanqing might not have truly cherished me. It was merely possessiveness at play, an inability to accept my departure. I tossed the letter into the roaring furnace, where it soon turned to ashes. I'd heard the Crown Prince Pei would soon depart the capital with the Marquis, and with mountains and rivers separating us, meeting again would be difficult. Ayu didn't even glance at the letter. Are you truly without regret? Though he spoke thus, the curve of his lips remained utterly uncontrollable. After much hesitation, I finally voiced the question weighing on my heart. So, back then, did I truly run around and pull strings everywhere to save Pei Yanqing? Outside the window, snow fell silently. Inside, the hearth crackled. Yes. Xie Chengjing turned a page in the scroll he held. The Marquis of Pei sought to use my Xie family's pardon token to save Pei Yanqing. My expression was beyond words, so I used the Xie family's pardon token to save Pei Yanqing? Could Xie Chengjing really tolerate that? I was bedridden at the time, knowing nothing. I wasn't even human then. He chuckled softly, drawing me into his embrace. In father's eyes, that pardon token was far more precious than I. How could he bear to use it to save me? It was Ayu who schemed tirelessly to obtain the purple erasure pill from the Pei family for me. If we're being honest, I'm the one who dragged you into this. A shadow of gloom settled over his gentle eyes. While outside, the wind and snow grew fiercer. I clasped Xie Chengjing's hand, pulling him out of the shadows of the past. Both of us must live in the present. Story Epilogue. Winter of the 28th year of Tianxua. I fell gravely ill. Court physicians came and went in waves, all declaring my days numbered and advising the household to prepare for my funeral. Ayu had married me for a lucky marriage ritual, lying unconscious in my grave illness. Even the wedding ceremony was performed with a rooster standing in for me. Having narrowly escaped death, I found the room filled with garish red silk utterly absurd. Knowing my days were numbered, I was merely clinging to life with a sickly body. Why burden this young woman? But seeing my mother's reddened eyes, I sighed. How could I bring myself to blame her? When I first met Ayu, she wore her hair in a woman's bun, though clearly just a girl of a dozen years. Her eyes held the quiet depth of an old woman. I told her I had only years left to live. If she wished, I would take her as my sworn sister and find her a good marriage. What counts as a good marriage? She gave a self-mocking smile, scooped a spoonful of medicine, and fed it to me, bitter enough to numb my tongue. If third young master truly cares for me, then take your medicine properly. Don't leave me too soon and leave me to bear the blame for being a husband killer. This world is so harsh on women. To Pei Yanqing, the broken engagement was merely another romantic escapade. For Xinjiu, however, the gossip was enough to destroy her. Perhaps my expression was too heavy, for she took out a handkerchief and carefully wiped the medicine residue from my lips. Is it bitter? She asked. Not bitter. I forced a light-hearted smile. Compared to that, it seems our lives are the bitterest of all. Everyone in the capital said my father was a rare romantic soul. Born into a distinguished family, he defied familial pressure to marry my mother, the daughter of a lowly fifth-rank official, and never took a concubine throughout his life. Only I knew he was a complete hypocrite. Though he never took a concubine, he maintained a separate courtyard in the suburbs for his mistresses. Moreover, those women bore more or less a resemblance to the esteemed imperial consort within the palace walls. By family ties, that imperial consort was my aunt, having grown up alongside my father since childhood. Alas, an imperial decree could only grant my father a counterfeit to ease his longing. I was not born frail. What woman in the harem remains truly innocent? The imperial consort sought to topple the empress, yet hesitated to use her own child as a pawn, while I lay poisoned and unconscious. My father schemed on how to use me to secure greater advantage for the fourth prince, her son. Only my mother wept until her tears ran dry. In a great clan, one hair moves the entire body. I could not bring myself to sacrifice my entire family to avenge my father. I could only drift like a lone boat adrift in the water, carried along by the current. One day, after feeding me my medicine, Au produced a candied fruit from somewhere and slipped it into my mouth. She curved her lips in a smile. This was specially prepared by the imperial physician. It won't clash with your medicine. The candied fruit dissolved in my mouth, releasing a thread of sweetness. Having swallowed more medicine than food since childhood, I'd long grown accustomed to bitterness. Yet as I gazed upon her serene eyes, my heart inexplicably skipped a beat. I had dragged the sickly body through 3 years, and now it was finally nearing its end. The battle for the throne between the fourth prince and the crown prince had reached its final stage. Pei Yanqing, having publicly sided with the fourth prince, was framed by the crown prince and imprisoned. The Marquis of Pei personally approached our family, offering his ancestral purple racier pill in exchange for the Xie family saving Pei Yanqing's life. Father refused. A dying son was not worth the risk. Upon learning the purple racier pill could save me, Au lobbied everywhere, determined to free Pei Yanqing. Others called her fickle, saying she had become a Xie family woman yet still harbored feelings for her former fiancé. Au was the only sweetness in my life these past 20-odd years. Meeting her was already a blessing beyond measure. I dared not ask for more. This body of mine was already spent, hardly worth such devotion. I converted my assets into banknotes. I also purchased land and shops for her in Jiangnan. This way, even after I'm gone, she'll have a place to call her own. No one will be able to bully her. Au clutched the purple mushroom pill, her eyes red and stubborn as she looked at me. I won't leave. She gently rested her head against my chest. Tears fell one by one. They soaked through my clothes, burning my heart with pain. Xie Chengjing, stay with me a little longer. In my final moments, Au sat quietly by my bedside. She shared many amusing stories about her youth learning martial arts. Au's voice choked up several times. Xie Chengjing, when you recover, let's settle down together in Jiangnan. I strained every muscle to lift my hand and wipe the tears from her eyes, smiling as I agreed. Au, if there is a next life, I will live 100 years by your side. After my death, Au took control of all the forces under my command. But my soul did not reincarnate, it remained by Au's side. When I saw Au standing masked beside the crown prince, her sword still dripping blood, I finally understood the price she paid for that purple racier pill. After returning, she scrubbed her hands for half an hour. Yet the bloodstains seemed impossible to wash clean. Sniffing back tears, she tilted her head to gaze at the empty sky. Xie Chengjing, shall I avenge you? After my death, father planned to adopt a child from the imperial clan. Au smiled and agreed. On the day of the adoption, she incited several of father's illegitimate sons, whom he had kept outside the household, to come and cause a scene. Father's carefully cultivated reputation was destroyed in an instant. Only then did everyone realize that the seemingly noble and upright minister Xie was, in truth, a complete hypocrite. Amidst the chaos, Au stood and announced she carried my posthumous child. Father naturally refused to believe it, summoning the imperial physician before everyone. That physician, however, happened to be loyal to the crown prince. Simultaneously, rumors swirled throughout the capital that Lord Xie harbored an improper affection for the imperial consort. Lusting after a consort was a capital offense, and father would never admit to it. Yet suspicion needed only a spark to ignite a raging fire. The new emperor, merciful, did not implicate the rest of the Xie family. He decreed that once the child in Ayu's womb came of age, it could still inherit the title. Pei Yanqing, however, was exiled by the new emperor to Lingnan. He returned to the capital only after turning 50, burdened by illness and injury. Ayu, whose secrets were held by the new emperor, became a sharp and useful blade. Over time, her hand no longer trembled when she killed. Only her silence grew deeper. Ayu once said her youthful dream was to roam the world with sword in hand, championing justice. Yet for me, she forced herself into the role of executioner. But I could only watch her, unable even to embrace her. She fulfilled filial duties at my mother's side until her passing. She raised that adopted child well. He learned right from wrong, mastered propriety. I knew her resilience, her defiance of wind, frost, and snow. Yet my heart still ached for her. If there truly is a next life, let me hold the umbrella for her, to shield her from the harshness of the world. The end.